Today's subject has been on my mind for a while, and it has to do with Noloco being a little bit funky when it comes to duplicates. If you're using any third-party database in conjunction with Noloco, like Airtable for example, pretty damn near impossible to prevent duplicate records when you're creating a new record. Or is it? Well, today we're gonna find out. We have a very simple Airtable database. I have a few products in there. I also have my Noloco instance, and let's just go ahead and add an item. Key thing to note here is that we have our product ID, and we want to have a unique list of product IDs, right? That's the whole point of duplicate prevention. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to put in product, let's say A. So I'm just going to test the system. And you see, I get this warning, but behind the scenes, Noloco has got this little bug that actually adds the row, which is not good. Now, the system that we've built is going to delete that row in a few seconds. There we go. That's basically the whole point of it. Now, if I add a brand new row, in other words, let's say I add a product ID that doesn't exist in my list, let's say product C, what you'll notice will happen, that product line item is going to be added. I also have set up Noloco to print after a successful creation the NLC product ID in here, therefore preventing it being deleted. Now, let's take a look at how this whole thing is set up. So we're going to build this thing together. Let's begin with a very simple Airtable database. We have just one table, items, we have product ID, an NLC product ID, very important, and we also have like a product type, doesn't really matter. Really, those two fields are the most important fields. The next thing that we need to do is we need to jump into Noloco, jump into our items, and then create a new field. Let's call this something like dupe check. Select text. Format, I would just say a single line. Now, this field has to be unique, so don't forget to turn this thing on. You cannot change this afterwards. So make sure that you tick this tick box and then just add field. What we're going to do now is we're going to jump into the form that creates the new item. Let's go ahead and go into edit mode. And over here, I'm just going to fix this. And here we go. Now we're going to bring dupe check right up here. And we're going to put it above product ID. The most interesting thing here is that I'm just gonna go into my product ID here and I'm just gonna choose dupe check to be written in there, right? That's a very important step. So make sure that that's then what we could do. We could just say this is our new product ID. So the user won't know the difference. Let's go ahead and press done. Let's go ahead and publish this and let's test this out. Product ID. Let's just say A, and that should go straight ahead, straight through. Yep, no problem. And we also can see that inside of our database. However, there's an automation that runs behind the scenes, which I'll turn off for now, which probably delete this record. I'm gonna talk about that automation in a sec. Let's just see this bad boy in action. Hopefully it's not gonna be deleted, but I'm just gonna go ahead and try and add a new item. And what you will see is that if I use the same product ID, press save, it's gonna stop me. It's gonna say that something went wrong. Dupe check value must be unique. A record with already exists, which is great. However, you will see that that record already got added to our Airtable database, which is, I would call it a bug on Noloco's side. Hopefully they will fix this, but this tutorial is specifically to combat this. So let's go ahead and check out that little automation that runs behind the scenes. And I'm just gonna delete this item. I'm gonna go back into that automation. The automation basically works in such a way that it waits for Noloco to fill in the NLC ID within a certain time frame. So our trigger essentially says that if product ID is not empty but NLC is empty, we run a script which basically waits for 10 seconds. Feel free to copy this. There's no like special values. It's just this script. So feel free to copy that. Next, what we do, essentially we're trying to refresh the memory of Airtable because this trigger triggers, but it stays static. So we need to like refetch that same record to see if anything has changed. After 10 seconds have passed, we perform a search. The search parameters are like so. And then if record length is 0, in other words, if this condition is set, so the length of records of our find is more than 0, right? So in other words, we find a duplicate, we run a script that basically deletes that particular found record. And it works like so, right? I've just put in a variable called record ID. You have to put in your table name. You have to hard code it basically. That's basically it. There's not much else to this deleting script, and also very useful for other purposes, I must say. Let's go ahead and test this out. So I'm just going to turn on that script. Let's check out our database. We only have one. Now let's try this again. So I'm just going to press save. We got our duplicate record. We are going to wait, and we're going to see if it's going to delete that record. We want that script to run. There you go, deleted. We've now managed to figure out how to delete duplicates out of Airtable. In other words, fix the Noloco problem. But now we also need Noloco to populate that NLC ID. Because if the record is legit, we actually want Noloco to populate that NLC ID so that when the script runs, the Airtable script runs, that record is going to be ignored, right? So we have this items workflow number 1 that I've just created, and the trigger is when an item record is created. And you have to understand that this is as per Noloco, the item is created. Because when we hit this error that we see in the form, Noloco is not really creating an item at that point, or at least it thinks that it's not. When it is, in other words, when you're giving me a unique value, I want this to run. And it's very straightforward, right? I want my NLC product ID to be pre-filled with, let's say, the dupe check, right? And that's it. Press done. Let's publish this. And that baby should now run on its own. So let's go ahead and test that. So widget A, that prevents it. So technically, that row is going to be deleted. However, if I put product ID B, that went through, right? No errors. Here it is. And we should have Noloco populate the NLC product ID in here in a few seconds. Oh no, hold on. What's going on? For some reason, it's turned off. That looks like it's running. That looks okay. Okay, let's try that again. Let's go ahead and add product B. That should go through. Beautiful. And there you go. B is now tattooed in the NLC product ID. Therefore, this record will not be deleted. Thank you so much for watching this particular tutorial on preventing duplicates in Noloco. Let me know your thoughts. Do you have other methods that you use? I know there's like other things that we can do probably with scripting. However, this is the one that I tend to use more often than not. Let me know down in the comments below what you think, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.